Yeah, rough.
You ready?
Gonna mute myself. Hold on. We all there?
You good?
All right. Here we go. Let's review from yesterday quickly. Pull it up here. So Daf Memvav discussed who's the one that makes hamotzi and who's the one that leads brachos hamazon. And then we said about the bracha that we say to the balabayas that Yehiratan is the first bracha brachos hamazon part of mezuman or not part of mezuman, which we said the halacha l'maisa is that the person leading the mezuman should make sure to say it out loud because of the shittus that holds as part of mezuman. And then we said that the fourth bracha of brachos hamazon is not from the Torah, it's from the Rabbanon. And on the base, we braid what type of bracha we make in a base oval, and then the proper way to seat dignitaries, like should the gadol be in the top, in the middle, and then we said the gadol washes his hands first before the meal, and he washes mayim achronim also. Mayim achronim starts with the leader of brachos hamazon, and if there's a lot of people washing mayim achronim, then the leader, they start from number 100, go down to number 5. Then when you get to 5, the first one is the one that the first of the last 5 is the one that's going to lead the benching. And the pshat is, by the way, is because you want to give him some time to be able to go over the brachos hamazon since he's going to be the one leading it. So you want to give him at least 4 people after him to wash mayim achronim, so that you can give him some time to learn what he has to say. Okay, ready? So now we're starting on the bottom of Memvav and Beis, bottom line. Yeah? When you're traveling, you don't give anybody covered, right? Meaning when you're both about to go over a bridge or get on the highway, let's say, right? So you don't give any covered. So basically, if you and your Rebbi or elders or whatever are both trying to get into the, go in the turning lane, you don't have to give any respect there for that. Okay? The loiva yadayim is almost, and it doesn't also with netilas yadayim for mayim achronim. We don't give respect. Something where it says the story. Rabban and Abaya have a kazi ba'orcha. They were both, Rabban and Abaya were traveling. So Rabban put his chamor, his donkey went ahead of Abaya's. And Abaya didn't tell, and Rabban didn't tell Abaya that he should go first. So Omar, when this Rav, meaning when Rabban went up to Eretz Yisrael, so he became a Balgaiva. The same thing that we always say about yeshiva guys that come home ben azmanim, and we say, oh, they learn the Eretz Yisrael, now they become Balgaiva. Right? I'm not saying that they are, I'm just saying that's what people say. Right? So Gaslei Taite, so he must have been a Balgaiva. So Kimatu Lapisla de Mishna, but when they got to the shul, to the doorway of the shul, Amarlei Neil Mar. Right? Rabban told Abaya, go in first. Amarlei Va'ad Hashalav Marana. So Abaya told him, and until now I wasn't somebody chashuv. So Amarlei Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. No, this is what Rabbi Yochanan said, and Rabbi Yochanan was from Eretz Yisrael, and he came from Eretz Yisrael at that point. So he said, Rabbi Yochanan said, Ein mechavden elu b'pesach sheyesh b'mezuzah. We only give coverage in a doorway that has a mezuzah. Something more says the isbei mezuzah in the less bei mezuzah loy. That's only if the door has a mezuzah, but if it doesn't have a mezuzah, not meaning if you're going to a hotel that's owned by goyim. Does that mean that you don't have to give respect there? Elameato, Beis HaKnesset, Beis HaMedrash, the less bei mezuzah hochanami deim mechavden. Right, so then you have a Beis HaKnesset and a Beis Medrash that doesn't have a mezuzah, right? Which we haven't discussed in this year, but in other shurim, then a shul and a Beis Medrash do not require a mezuzah, right? So does that mean that you don't have to show respect to an elder when walking into shul? What it means, it has to be in a door that's right to give a mezuzah. If you have a door that's right for mezuzah, which is basically any door in a shul, hotels, goyim's houses, whatever it is, then you have to show respect, but not traveling. Okay, Tanraban. I'm sorry, I skipped a few lines. Okay, I'm going to review the Breder of Shmuel, about 10 lines down. Right, Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, Bashilas, Bishmei the Rav. Right, he said, Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel Bashilas, in the name of Rav, Einam Subin Rishayim Lechol Klum Achiyitam Abetzeya. Those that are eating by the table cannot taste anything until the Betzeya, until the one making hamotzi eats. Right, which is the halacha. You got to be careful with that, because sometimes when you make hamotzi, you give out all the challah before you eat it. That's wrong for two reasons. One is that the one making the hamotzi has to eat first. It's a hefsek if he just gives out all the challah. But there are opinions that it's not a hefsek. But even so, you have to you can't eat before the one making the hamotzi. Right? Yeah. Okay. So that's that. Also, Rav Safra recovered the time, and Rav Safra said the same thing, but he said, but instead of saying the mezuman are not allowed to taste, he said lit time to taste. Lit time itmar instead of sheyit time. Itmar l'mayna. Who cares what is lit time, yit time? What's the difference? Shechayav adam loimer b'lashon rabbi. The reason is because you have to say it over exactly. You have to say it exactly the way your Rebbi said it over. So therefore, they're having a machlokes, whether he said achiyah time or he said lit time. Yeah.
What's the pshat in this halacha, Rabbi? That you have to wait till he eats. You made the bracha. Yeah. We went over yoitz already.
It's respect. It's respect for the person making the bracha. That's what it is. That's why we're going to see that he also gets. He also eats. He also eats first too. We're not going to see that, but Shulchan Aruch, the one whoever makes the hamotzi also should be served first. Okay. Yeah. So
even if he's at his father's table,
the one who makes hamotzi is out respect for the one who made the bracha. I was wondering if that's doicha sitting by the father's table or not. I don't know. The Shulchan Aruch doesn't discuss it.
You're saying the whole meal he should be served first, or just
yes, no, the whole meal. The one who made hamotzi gets the whole meal served to him first, out of respect for the one that made the bracha of everybody. Yeah, that's what it says in Shulchan Aruch. All right, fine. Tana Rabbanan. Shnayim mamtinim zelazeh v'kara. Shloisha ein mamtinim. If two people are eating, and one of them stops eating, then you have to wait. We pass on like this too. So you got two guys sitting at a pizza shop eating fries, and one of them gets a phone call and stands up and has to go take the call. You have to stop eating and wait for him. Shloisha ein mamtinim. But if there's three, then you don't have to wait for one guy. Yeah. So here's the next Gemara. Right. This is halacha. The one who cuts the challah, he's the one that sticks out his hand first. Right? Right? Jesse is saying if he wants to, then he can. It doesn't. But it's mashma from the Gemara that he does not have to. Right? Now, what he could do to get around it is to give the hamotzi to the father. Right? Let the father make the hamotzi, and then you don't have the issue. Then, of course, he'll be served first. Right? So again, from the lashon of the Gemara, reshus biyad, it sounds like it's optional. You don't have to give respect because since you're the one that made the brachos, you go first. He was digging Isaac, which we said already. That means for a wedding. So he taught his son, and he said the Baitseya should not start cutting the challah until everybody finished saying Amen. It doesn't have to be from everyone that's saying. It has to be from Roiv. Right, so why is it Roiv. Why do you have to wait for Roiv? Because the bracha is not finished until everybody answers Amen. Meaning Amen's part of the brachas. You have to wait. So if there's a miyut that hasn't finished, then the bracha is not over yet either. So why do you only have to wait for Roiv? You should have to wait for everybody. Because anybody who answers Amen longer than he's supposed to is making a mistake. So since they're making a mistake, you don't have to wait for them, meaning their Amen is too long. And it's the same thing when you dominate for the Amud, you got to make sure that everybody finishes the Amen before you start the next bracha. But if there's a guy that decides he's going to be very religious and say Amen for a very long time, then him you don't have to wait for. Okay, now the Gemara goes through some halachas of Amen. So you should not say an Amen, which really means a chataf. You're saying Amen so fast that you're not pronouncing it correctly. Amen ketufa, and not an Amen that's short, meaning you're saying it also too fast. These are all examples of saying it too fast. Amen yisaima, and not a orphaned Amen, which that means that you're saying Amen when nobody said a bracha. You shouldn't throw out a bracha from your mouth, right? Meaning you have to say it slow. Yeah? But as if anybody says Amen for no reason, meaning just walks around saying Amen, then his children will become orphans. Chatufa, it's actually a puzzle in this week's parsha too about kids becoming orphans. Chatufa yischatfu yamav. If you say it, I don't know exactly. You say it too fast, so your life is going to go by fast. Ketufa yischatfu yamav will be the same thing. You'll have short days.
Does this go on the chazan if he starts the next bracha before everyone finishes?
That's not Amen. That's not Amen. He's just jumping to the next bracha. He's not waiting for the Amen. I don't think so. It's talking about somebody who's not answering Amen properly. Right?
I think what he's asking, Rabbi, I think what Reb Naftali is asking is if a chazan does do it too quick and he started the next bracha, then everyone's Amen is the Yisayim Amen.
No, I don't think it's a Yisayim Amen, but he may be causing them on the next bracha to answer Amen too fast because they're afraid that he's going to keep going. Maybe that could be an issue. I hear. I don't know if
do I got to slow down?
I don't think I remember. I think you're fine. I think you're fine. Yeah. Yeah, so but anybody who is marich and Amen, so then we do give him lengthy days and years. Yeah. Now, what do you say?
Let's say you have a song with Amen in it.
You have a song with Amen in it. I hear. I don't know. That's a good question. Probably, if it's just Amen, I don't know. That probably would be not such a good thing to do. I don't know. I'll have to think about that. That's a very good question. Yeah. Now, Tosis has another interesting question. Tosis straight to the left there. As everybody knows this famous Gemara in Sukkah, right? About the Alexandria Shul Mitzrayim, that they had twice the amount of people that came out of Mitzrayim in the shul, right? So that comes out that it's 1.2 million people davening in the shul, and there was no way you could hear the chazan. So what they did is they raised these flags, and when they raised the flag, everybody knew to answer Amen. So how could you do that? So he says, how can you do that? If you don't hear the brachos, that's Amen Yisrael, right? So Tosis says, no, they knew which bracha was being said, so that when they said Amen, they knew, I guess there's different flags for different brachas, so they knew to which brachas being said, their Amen's being said to, so therefore that counts. This is saying Amen, Yisayim here is just Tom, you randomly saying Amen, you have no idea what you're saying Amen to, right? So that's the way Tosis answers that. Amen, by the way, it's basically Kel Melech Neman, that's what it stands for, and basically when you say Amen, your kavanah should be that whatever that person just said, I agree to wholeheartedly. That's your kavanah when you answer Amen. Yeah. Rav Shmuel, Havayasi B'Sudasa. Yeah, right in Gemara. Rav Shmuel was sitting by a meal. Also, Rav Simi Barchia have a kumasra v'achol. Right. So he he went very quick to eat, that he should be part of the mezuman. Amar le Rav, right? Why are you eating so fast? Because you want to be part of the mezuman with us? We already ate, right? So Amar le Shmuel, but then Shmuel said, Ilu maisili ardalia v'gazlaya, if they would bring mushrooms, right? And gazlaya is like birds, fowl, like choshev fowl, ta'ava is a lashon of respect. Mi lo achlinon, right? Would you not eat it? So you would eat it. So since you would eat it, so you haven't finished your meal yet, right? Which is the way we paskin. So basically, you have two guys sitting down in a pizza shop or whatever it is, and then the third guy comes and wants and eat, and they're finished eating. Two guys are sitting in a pizza shop, and they're finished eating, and then a third guy comes and sits down, right? As long as the two guys would potentially eat more food, then they can be included in the mezuman. Once they said like, okay, we're benching and we're leaving, then that's already too late. But as long as theoretically, if this guy offered them an extra dish or whatever, and they would eat it, so then that's considered that they're still eating, and then they would be able to make a mezuman. Okay? Talmid Rav Haviyasvi Sudasa. So Talmid Rav was sitting on a Suda. O Rav Acha Amri also Gavra Rav Havarachlan. Right? Somebody great, a great person is going to come and is going to bench for us. Amralu Misa Risu the Golden Mavarich. Who do you really think that the one that's the biggest should bench? The main person that's part of the Suda, right? Meaning if somebody's there from the beginning of the meal to the end, the guy is there, so he's obviously more involved than the Adam Gadol who came later. So he would get it first. The Hilchos of Gadol Mavarich Avagav that's a little safe. And the halacha is that no, the Gadol should bench even though he came later. Okay? Fine. Now these next Gemaras are they're a little technical, but they're not too hard. Ochal dmai. So one of the things we said is that if you eat dmai, then you're allowed to be part of the mezuman. Now dmai is suffix. Dmai is food that belongs to
dmai.
Dmai. There you go. Very good. Dmai means this. What is this? Meaning it's fruits and vegetables from an amoretz. We discussed this already, and we don't know. Correct. Yeah. So, yeah, dmai. It stands for dmai, which is the vegetables and fruits from an amoretz. They're really fruits, not vegetables. And we don't know if he took off Trumas and Mises or not. So therefore we say dmai. What is this? We don't know. Right? So we're saying that you could make a mezuman. Right? So the Gemara says, haloi chazile, right? But he can't eat it. Haloi chazile, it's not right for him to eat. Right? So how can he make a mezuman with that? Right? Meaning if you eat it and you're not supposed to eat dmai, we have a gezerah d'rabbanan that you're not allowed to eat it. So how can you make a mezuman on something when you weren't allowed to? It was awesome. Right? So Gemara answers, Kivin di boy mafkalul in chasav avi ani. Because the rule with dmai is an ani is allowed to eat it. Since it's only awesome with the Rabbanan said a poor person who can't afford things, so he can eat dmai. So good. So everybody can theoretically be poor. You can make all your money after.
One second, I don't understand that kasha. Because you did something, so you shouldn't bench from it?
Correct. Halacha is
on Yom Kippur you have to make kiddush or something. No, do you have to make a bracha?
No, but that's because you have a heter. That's because you have a heter to eat. If
but
somebody eats treif, he does not make a bracha. Somebody eats treif, he doesn't eat it. He doesn't make a bracha. Right? So here, what you do, Rashi says it's mitzvah ba'avera. You ate dmai, which is aser. Why should you be able to make a mezuman? So the Gemara is answering no, but since we know that poor people are allowed to have it, so you can make everything hefker, and therefore you could be poor. Right?
But eating Yom Kippur is also aser.
No, but yeah, and a chanami, but not if you're sick. If you're sick, it's mutter. If you're sick, you're chayiv to eat. You don't eat.
This is always the dmai is always aser. You mean?
Yeah, the dmai is always aser unless you're poor. Right? So good. So a guy can make himself poor. Theoretically, he can make himself poor. Right? The Tanan, because we learned the Mishna, as a niyim dmai, as a chsani dmai. You're allowed to feed an ani dmai and a guest dmai. Right? But then we see that somebody disagrees with this. For Omar Rav Huna Tana Beishamai Ein Machilin as aniyim as a chsani dmai. But Beishamai disagrees. he says you're not allowed to give aniyim and achsani dmai. So therefore, this Mishnah will not work according to Beis Shammai. Why the Gemara brings that, I don't know, because we don't pass them like Beis Shammai. Yeah? Yeah, fine. So that's dmai. Now, Ma'aser Rishon Shenat Shemasi. Now we need a little bit of a hakdama, exactly what goes on. So first, there's 3 steps basically. You have to give, first you give truma to the kohen, then you give Ma'aser to the Levi, and then the Levi has to give truma. Then the Levi has to give truma to the kohen, right? So Ma'aser Rishon Shenat Shemasi sounds like a simple thing. It was Ma'aser Rishon. Ma'aser Rishon is what goes to the Levi, and the truma was taken off, right? So what's wrong? Right? So the Mishnah says that Ma'aser Rishon, that truma was taken off, you can make a mezuman on it. Of course you can make a mezuman on it. Why not? That's what you're supposed to do. The Gemara says pshita, it's pashit. So the Gemara says like tricha, no, there was a scam going on here. Ela shekdimo b'shibailim v'hifrish mimenu trumas ma'aser v'lo hifrish mimenu truma gedayla. What happened here is that he separated the kohen's portion from the Levi's without giving the kohen his initial portion. Meaning, if you give truma to the kohen, and then you give ma'aser to the Levi, and then you give from that ma'aser to the kohen, so that kohen that's getting from the truma is not getting as much as theoretically if you took the truma off from the ma'aser before the initial truma was being separated. I know this sounds like a whole lot of confusion, but basically, we're talking about here where the truma from the Levi's portion was taken off, but the initial truma that goes to the kohen was not taken off. So the Mishnah is saying, therefore, it's still okay. Even if you do that, it's still okay. Again, like they went and they got it when it was still in the stalks. And they separated trumas ma'aser, which is the portion that goes to the kohen from the Levi's, and they didn't separate truma gedola, meaning the initial one. If you pulled this shtick and you took off Ma'aser Rishon and you gave truma on that Ma'aser Rishon, then you don't have to give truma gedola to the kohen. Says you give truma and it's ma'aser from ma'aser. Ma'aser min ma'aser ma'atilach. V'lo truma gedola, trumas ma'aser min ma'aser. I said you have to give ma'aser from ma'aser. I didn't say you have to give truma gedola and trumas ma'aser from ma'aser. So basically, if you jump the gun and you give the Levi his portion first, you can bypass giving the initial portion to the kohen. Now, whether you should do that or not,
from your whole pile, you bypass your truma from your whole pile.
Correct. You bypass the big truma that you have to give to the kohen. So the kohen will end up with a little bit of truma, but not nearly as much because he's only going to be getting a portion of the Levi's 10%. He's not getting the initial truma if you do this shtick, right? But only when you do this by the shiboilim. You have to do this when it's still by the stalks. Yeah, that's what the Gemara continues. So if that's the case, then even if you do it once it's piled up, it should also be right. It says you don't give truma ma'aser min ma'aser. It says a ma'aser min ma'aser. It says and no truma gedola trumas ma'aser min ma'aser. So what's the difference if you do it when it's by the stalks or when you do it when it's still in the silo? When it's in the silo, that shouldn't make a difference. So Amalei, he said to him, Alech Amar Kran, what you're saying, the pasuk says, Ekol Maser Seichem Terimu. It says from all your ma'aser you should give truma, right? So therefore it tells you that once it's in the pile, in the silo, then it doesn't work. So meaning the shtick doesn't work. Umari Isa, who says you should darshan it that way? Maybe you should darshan it the other way, that you do it from the pile and not from the stalks. So when the answer is high idgan v'high lo idgan, one is it's still considered grain, and one is not considered grain. Meaning it's when it's initially way early when it's still in stalk, so it doesn't even have the name of grain yet. So therefore you're scamming the system that way. But once it's already in the pile, then it has the din of grain. So then everything has to be done in the proper order. Okay, that's that. Ma'aser sheni v'hektish sheniftu. So ma'aser sheni, what's ma'aser sheni? So you got to take it up to Yerushalayim, right? And hektish, and you applied it. So it's saying you had ma'aser sheni, and then basically what they did was you have your fruits, and You have to take them up to Yerushalayim. Now, obviously, if you have 10 buckets of fruit, it's a real pain to bring it up to Yerushalayim. So what you do is you take all the fruit and you put it onto, let's say, $1, and now you make the dollar kiddush, and all the fruits lose their chiddush status, and then you eat the fruits, and then you take that dollar up to Yerushalayim, and then you buy fruits with it, and then that's basically what you do. So the Gemara is saying, if you eat that, so then you can make, obviously if it's bread, then it's wheat, so then you can make a mezuman. So it's pshita, it's pasha, what's wrong? Because what you have to do, I left this part out, and when you're doing the pidyon, what you have to do is you have to add on a fifth. Since we didn't want you taking advantage of Meiser, so you have to add on, if you're going to do this and not drag the fruits up with you to Yerushalayim, and you put it onto dollars, you have to always add a fifth. So what happens if you did the keren, meaning the initial price of whatever the fruits are worth, but you didn't give the chaimish, right? So yes, you did something wrong by not adding on a fifth, but if you didn't add on a fifth, you're still allowed to eat that food. Okay? Fine. A shamash ochel kazayis. So a shamash that eats a kazayis, pshita. So you say, oh, why not? The shamash is the waiter, he ate it. Wow, the same as shamash like kava. So you might think that the shamash, he's running around, he didn't sit down with you by the table, so therefore he can't be part of the mezuman. Kamash Malam was saying, no, as long as he's around, then he could be considered part of the mezuman. Koosi mezaman love. So a koosi, right? Those are the ones that officially tried to become Jews, but they weren't really Jews. It's a whole issue, right? So the Gemara says, why? It should be just like an amoretz. The Tanya ain't mezaman al amoretz, and the Mishna says you can't make a mezuman on an amoretz, right? Meaning the Gemara is saying, why do you need a special thing for koosi? A koosi is in all probability an amoretz, and we know that an amoretz can't be part of the mezuman. So what do you have to tell us koosi? Right? So why lo yehel amoretz? It should be like an amoretz. The Tanya we learned the mezuman al the brachos we didn't learn in our Mishna, right? That you can't make a mezuman on amoretz. By Amar bekusi chavar. He says no. We're talking about a koosi who's a talmud chacham. So therefore we have to say that even though he's a talmud chacham, still he can't be part of the mezuman, right? Rabba Amar afilu tem bekusi amoretz. You could even say it's a kusi amoretz. V'hacha ba'amoretz the rabbanon. We're talking about an amoretz of the rabbanon, right? The pligi alei the rameir. They're talking about an amoretz according to the rabbanon who disagree with rameir. Askinan. That's what we're talking about. The Tanya ezo amoretz. What is an amoretz? Kol she'eino oichel chulin betara. Chula betara. Anybody who does not eat his chulin betara. Now what that means is that kohanim always have to be tar, so they have to keep their food tar, right? There were certain frum people, right, who ate everything of theirs betahara, right? Even if it's chulin, even if it's not hektish. So we're saying that whoever's an amoretz is somebody who doesn't eat his chulin betahara. There's obviously a big question on that because why would you're an amoretz if you decide you don't want to eat your chulin betahara? But that's what Rameir holds, right? The Rameir again. The Tanya ezo amoretz kol she'eino oichel chula betahara. The Rameir kol she'eino meiser peroisav keroi. If he doesn't give meiser properly, then he is considered amoretz. V'ani kusoi asurei meiser, and kusim do give meiser. Kidachazi the way they're supposed to. And this is a very interesting thing about kusim. The dmai tichsev by raisa mizazori. We whatever was written in the Torah, the kusim are very careful. Any mitzvah that the kusim did decide to keep, they actually keep it more than the yidden do. Right? We had this in Nida too, for anybody that's doing Daf and Nida. So that's the Amar. So that's the Kusi that we're saying no, but he cannot, even though they keep Meiser and all that, they may not be Amaratim because they keep Meiser, but they still cannot be part of the mezuman. Okay? And Amaris is anybody who doesn't read Shema by Ma'ariv and by Shachas. If he doesn't put on tefillin, he's an Amaris. If he doesn't wear tzitzis, if he doesn't have mezuzah. He has children, but he doesn't teach them Torah. So till now, the first bunch, okay, that's pretty straightforward. He's not doing mitzvahs, so he's an amaris. But this last one is very interesting. he could have learned Mishna and even reviewed it, but he's not. If he was not Mishamash Tamid Chachamim, then he's an Amoritz. And Omar Rebbi Rav Huna halacha k'acherim. The halacha is like acherim, right? So that's where you see the importance. And you do happen to see this, at least in the rabbinic world. If you have guys who sit and learn Gemara or learn halacha and they don't have a Rebbi, it's a whole different ballgame. They end up not having proper Messiah. I'm sure Kalman Yerman, if he's still there, probably have what to say about this. Yeah.
Rabbi, I have a lot what to say. But I'm
sure
happy that you're our rabbi. Rabbi, I'm happy you're our rabbi. And we have
at least somebody's happy about that. Anyways, yeah.
Like Peretz would say, it's unanimous.
What?
Peretz would say it's unanimous.
There you go. Okay. Rami Bar Chama Loy Azman. This story is also a scary story about making sure before you judge people. Yeah. So Rami Bar Chama Loy Azman Alei the Rav Menashe Bar Tachlifa. Rami Bar Chama did not allow Rav Menashe Bar Tachlifa to be part of the mezuman. Why? The Tani Sifra v'Sifri v'Hilchasa. He learned Sifra, Sifri, and Halachas, and but obviously he was not Mishamash Tamid Chacham. So therefore he's an Amoritz. Therefore he's not allowed to be part of the mezuman. Ki noch nashid Rami Bar Chama, when Rami Bar Chama passed away, Amar Rav loy noch nashid Rami Bar Chama ela d'loy azman Rav Menashe Bar Tachlifa. The reason why Rami Bar Chama died is because he did not include Rav Menashe Bar Tachlifa on the mezuman. So why? What was wrong with Tanya? We learned the right. If he even if he learned, if he wasn't Mishamash Tamid Chachamim, he's an Amoritz. So what did Rami Bar Chama do wrong that he died early? Our answer, Shani Rav Menashe Bar Tachlifa, the Mashmul Rabbanon, that he did hear what he did do Shimish Tamid Chachamim. Rami Bar Chama, who the Loydaka Basrei. Rami Bar Chama did not do the proper research, right? So since he didn't do the proper research, so because of that, he died. So before judging anybody, right, and we're talking about big Amiroim over here, before we judge anybody, you got to make sure you do the proper research. And Lishna Achrina, the Shama Shmaita Mikumai the Rabbanan, Bekoras Lu, Keturim Rabbanan Dami. Since he listened to what the Rabbanan say, so therefore, meaning he went to Shiurim, so therefore he's considered like a young Talmid Chacham, and even though he didn't actually learn with Tamid Chachamim, but since he did go to Shiurim, so therefore he really was considered being Shamish Tamid Chachamim, so therefore Rami Bar Chama was incorrect. Yeah, whatever that means. Right? Now Taisus, the top Taisus says, Amar Rav Huna halacha k'acherim. So he says, nowadays we're not medaktik, and we include Amaratzim in a mezuman. Right? Yeah. So that's
Rabbi, you know why? Because you're
not coming through.
What about not a fruma?
Oh, very good. Can you make a mezuman and not a fruma? So yeah, thank you for reminding me to say that. But a not frum person, you can include him in a mezuman if he's not anti. That's the halacha. As long as he's not anti, you can include him.
Oh, that means you have guests over or not Shem Shabbos, you can include them?
You can include them in the mezuman, yeah. As long as they're not anti. But yeah. I'll double check to make sure, but I'm pretty sure that's when we come out. Okay? Also tevel and meiser. Let's say eat tevel and meiser. Right?
Yaakov, if a guy has his mezuzahs off because they're being checked, does that mean that means you don't have to include him in the mezuman?
It's a good question, because really you're not allowed to live in a house without a mezuzah. So you really can't take them down. So, but I would think that he's considered an einus.
Uh-huh.
But I hear. You should be careful. You should be careful and make sure you don't leave your mezuzahs off for any length of time.
Get any ideas? Okay.
Listen, you want to hear a passage? Now that you brought it up, I'll give a shameless plug for the Monday night shir in Bayswater. We're learning Hilchos Mezuzah. Rabbi Kiva Eger holds, and I heard this from a shir from Rizal Reisman, that Rabbi Kiva Eger holds that when you leave your house, you stop getting the mitzvah mezuzah. Just like tzitzis, you take them off, you don't get a mitzvah. Rebbi Akiva Eiger holds when you leave your house, the Pischei Tshuva brings it, when you leave your house, you stop getting the mitzvah of mezuzah. And if you leave your house for a couple of days, Rebbi Akiva Eiger holds you got to make a new bracha on the mezuzah. So it's if you're Rebbi Akiva Eiger, you should never go to shul. That's what comes out. That's what I think. But
we don't paskin like that.
We don't paskin like that. But Rebbi Akiva Eiger is Rebbi Akiva Eiger, and that's what he held. So meaning just to take down your mezuzahs for a day or two is really not simple. Yeah, that's what you have. That's what we have gemach.
A lot of styles that keep coming up with me is these guys that are Machal Shabbos.
Right.
It's weird. They keep kosher, but they're Machal Shabbos.
Yeah, but the question is, do they really define as Machal Shabbos in public? If they're not Machal Shabbos in front of you or in front of friends, then they're not considered Machal Shabbos.
How about if they're updating their WhatsApp status?
That's a good question because that they know people could see. But Mistama, they're assuming that rabbis are not on this. So the person could say that if you would be embarrassed to be Machal Shabbos in front of a rabbi, that's enough to show that you do have some sort of fear of God, and that's enough. So I'm assuming they think that the rabbis are not on their status. Right?
On Shabbos.
Well, no, you could see that it was updated on Shabbos. Right?
But a lot of rabbis of these yeshivas are on their WhatsApp status. They just don't check it on Shabbos.
No, but you can see later after Shabbos that somebody up. I guess not. I guess if you erased it, I don't know. Yeah, but most of these guys are the teyoven, and they're not lahachit, and they would be embarrassed in front of others. But mamela, they're not considered machal Shabbos for haeretz.
And so it's not yayin.
Yeah.
Sorry. One second, that's true. That is true for yayin. That's like a non-from cousin who's embarrassed by you when they're in your house keep Shabbos. That's okay.
They're not machal Shabbos for haeretz if they're. They are embarrassed. Saying they are embarrassed.
Yeah, they're by you, so they know they got to keep Yom Tov because they're embarrassed. But you know that they don't keep.
No, yeah, they would not. They're not considered machal Shabbos for haeretz. Correct. Now, it could be by yayin.
This is very negaya. This is very negaya.
It is negaya. Yeah, it is negaya. But once you're on that subject, at least Rabbi Ovadia Yosef holds, and a lot of people make this mistake. So, if a guy pours a bottle of wine, then the whole bottle of wine becomes no good. We paskin, at least most paskin, that if a not-from person pours a bottle of wine, yes, the cup of wine that he pours it into is a problem, but the rest of the stuff in the bottle is not a problem. So even if by mistake he does pour the wine, the stuff in the bottle is still going to be good if he's a machal Shabbos for haeretz, even if he's a machal Shabbos for haeretz. All right, we got some more to do here. Yeah. Ochal tevel or ma'aser. So let's say a tevel and ma'aser that was not taken off. So that's pashut. So we're saying you can't make it with them. That's pashut. Tevel is mamish asa. Tevel means that it had no true ma'aser taken off. Tevel pshita. L'ticha b'tevel tevel midrabanan. Right? It's talking about where it's only tevel midrabanan, not midaraisa. Hechi dummy. What's the case of tevel midrabanan? But it's a chain and knock of. It's talking about a flower pot that has no hole in it, meaning a flower pot that has a hole in it, so it's getting sustenance from the ground. So that let's say you're growing tomatoes in your flower pot, right? So if it has a hole in it, which most do, so therefore it gets its sustenance from the ground. Therefore you have to midaraisa to take off chumas and maisus, whatever it is, right? But if it's a flower pot without any holes in it, so then it's only midarabanan. So you would think that tevel midrabanan you would be included in the mezuman. Mishna telling you not included. Yeah, ma'aser rishon. This is the opposite of the case we said before, right? Pshita. That's pashut if you didn't do ma'aser rishon shenadol chumasei. Like tzricha gan shekdimu b'kri. Talking about where you went and you took it in the pile, which we said before. It's already too late. How the same because I'm really Rav Papa Labaya. So maybe you would think like Rav Papa said to Abaya, and therefore the shtick would work even once the grain gets to the silo. The Mishna teaching like the answer is that it does not, the shtick doesn't work with the silo and it's also to eat it. Okay, so ma'aser sheni, like we discussed before, you got to take it up to Yerushalayim. So, and if you're not paid it, so the Mishna is saying you cannot make a mezuman. Pshita, of course you can't make a mezuman, right? It wasn't taken care of. What it's talking about is if you were paid the fruits and vegetables, but you weren't fruits and you weren't paid it properly. Ma'aser sheni, how? By ma'aser sheni, konchepadu agabi asimon. You were paid it on an asimon, and a asimon is a coin. The old phone, I don't know if anybody's old enough to know this, the old phone booth in Eretz Yisrael had what's
Rabbi, I remember it. Rabbi, I remember it.
There you go. So an asimon is just a faceless coin. And basically they were able to raise and lower the prices on the phone without making you put in new coins. Meaning, when the prices went up, they said, okay, you need to put in 3 asimons. And when the prices went down, then you only have to put in 2 asimons. But whatever it is, it's money that has no value. There's no value to it. So you would not be allowed to. We're talking about where you took the meiser, your fruits, and you made the asimons into the meiser instead of your fruits. The third is it has to be with money that has a tzura on it, and asimon does not have a tzura. It has to be like a quarter, a nickel, a dollar. It has to have a price. And hektish shechilo gabi karka. And hektish meaning, let's say you decided to donate your car to hektish, right? So nobody's bringing a car to Beis Hamikdash. So what you do is you paid it onto money. But here, instead of doing onto money, you did it onto your karka, onto your yard. But loy pada b'kesef, and you weren't paid it onto kesef. You have to give money to the Beis Hamikdash. You don't give karka, right? So therefore, even in those cases, you cannot. Even in those cases where you did pay this, if you weren't paid it correctly, you cannot make a mezuman. Okay, v'hashamash ochel pachas of kazayas. Let's say the shamash eats less than a kazayas. Sorry, somebody called in. Shamash ochel pachas of kazayas pshita. It's pashit, and one answers, I did ton of reisha kazayas, ton of sefer pachas of kazayas. If you didn't eat a kazayas, it's pashit. The shamash can't be part of the mezuman. You didn't eat enough. So we're saying, really, you're right, there's no chiddush, but since in the ratio we discussed kazayas, in the sefer we also said it. Fine, you can't make a mezuman on a guy, pshita. It's pashit, you can't, how can you have a guy part of a mezuman? We're talking about a ger who had mila and he did not have tefillah. You're not a ger until you have mila and tefillah, of the leitavel nachri. As long as he didn't do tefillah, even if he had a bris, which is the hard part, he is still considered a guy. Okay, so that's what the Mishna is telling you. Even that guy, he can't be part of the mezuman. You cannot. This rest of this Gemara here is easy. Women and avodim and ketanim, you can't make a mezuman. A cotton that's a baby in a crib. You are allowed to make a mezuman. So what does that mean? Well, it's not noshim avodim ketanim aims down the land. Didn't we just say that you can't make a mezuman with a cotton? So how can you do it with a baby in a cradle? So Udama Rebbi Shubin Levi, don't Rebbi Shubin Levi, Alpha Pisha Amr Cotton, and Mutu Barista, Amazon love, I will sniff la Sarah. So Rebbi Shubin Levi says that even though a cotton who's in a crib, you can't make him a mezuman, right? But you can make him as a sniff la Sarah. You can, if there's 9 people, you can make him as the 10th in order to be part of a minyan for Zimun. Right? 9 and an Eved will be mitzaref. Meitzvei, who asked a kasha from a famous story in Shas, Meitzvei Rebbi Lezer, Shenichlas Beis HaKnesses, Rebbi Lezer went into shul, he didn't have 10 people, V'shichar Avdoi, and he freed his slave, V'shlimu La'asara, and then he had 10 people for the minyan. So when it says Shichra in Lo Shichra Loi, only if he freed him, but if he didn't free him, not. Right? So you see that you have to free the slave. The slave can't be part of a minyan. Right? Otherwise, why would Rebbi Eliezer free him? Right? So Gemara answers trade strichu. He needed 2 people. Shichur chad v'nafik chad. He freed 1 slave and he used 1 slave for part of the minyan. Right? Meaning 2 slaves is already too much to use. 1 slave you could use. How do you do this? Anybody who frees his slave is over in a mitzvah say. They have to work for you forever. So when answers with var mitzvah shan, for a mitzvah you're allowed to free your slave. Mitzvah haba ba'avera. But it's a mitzvah haba ba'avera, meaning you did an avera by freeing your slave in order to do a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah haba ba'avera. So when answers mitzvah the ramashani, a public mitzvah like making a minyan, that would be allowed. Right? Fine. Right? This is a famous Gemara that a person should try and get up early to go to shul, that he should be from the first 10 that come to shul. So that even if 100 people come after him, you get the schar of everybody that came to shul afterwards. So the Gemara says, schar kulam, do you really think they get the schar of everybody? What we do is you give them the schar equal. They're not taking everybody else's schar. They're just going to get the equal amount of schar. So this is a very fine reason to be one of the first 10 people in shul. Somebody told me that there were guys that were going around in Farak on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to different shuls to make sure they're the first 10, and once the shul got a minyan, they went to the next shul so they can get the schar of everybody. I think it was Yom Kippur. How's that for an interesting take on this? Yeah, I'm not sure that's exactly what Hashem wants you to do, but that's what these guys are doing. Yeah. So Amar Rav Huna, Tisha ba'aron mitzdarfen. Tisha, 9 people, and the Aron Kodesh can be mitzvah to make a minyan. Obviously, with the Gemara doesn't pass them like we don't pass them like this. Amar Rav Nachman ba'aron Gavru, is the Aron a person? Amar Rav Huna, Tisha nirinka sara mitzdarfen. When you have 9 who look like 10, so then that's a minyan. Some say that it's only when the 9 they're all standing very close to each other, then it looks like 10 because you really can't count because they're too close together. But some say no, it's when they're spread out, right? So when they're spread out, it's hard to count them. Fine. So Amar Rav Ami Shnayim b'Shabbos mitzvah. 2 people on Shabbos can combine to make a mezuman. Amar Rav Nachman b'Shabbos Gavru, is Shabbos a person? Amar Rav Ami Shnei Talmidei Chachamim hamachazin zeh zeh b'halacha mitzvah. 2 Talmidei Chachamim that are being sharp with each other, right? Meaning they're sitting and arguing and talking and learning, then they can be combined to make a mezuman. Mechzi Rav Huna, Rav Chisda, going on Nova Rav Sheshes. Machli, I'm sorry. He said, me and Rav Sheshes, those are 2 Talmidei Chachamim. Rav Sheshes, Machli Rav Sheshes going on Nova Rav Chisda. And Rav Sheshes made a sign, it's like me and Rav Chisda. Okay? Yeah. So, again, something that we don't do. Amar Rav Yochanan, Katan Pereach Mazan Malav. A katan who's showing maturity even before his bar mitzvah, we can make a mezuman on him. A katan who had already grew 2 hairs, he's going to make a mezuman on him. But if he didn't bring 2 sires, and we don't make a mezuman, and then we said we don't check out a katan. Meaning, if we think the katan already has 2 hairs, we don't ask him and we don't do research. We just would include him. The Gemara says, Hagufa Kasha, it's a stira. Amrit, Hevi Shtei Cyrus Inla, Hevi Loi. If he has Shtei Cyrus, good, and if he doesn't have, then you can include him. But other Tani, right? Then we said you're not medactic. So if you say that he has to have 2, then you have to be medactic. Right? Lasuye Mai. Lav, Lasuye, Katan Pereach. Is it not coming to include a Katan Pereach? Meaning somebody, a kid who looks like he's maturing, so then you don't have to research it. The less hilchas of kol hanishmaitza, and the Allah is not like any of these things. The katan who knows who to bench to, meaning he understands and recognizes Hashem, then you can make him a mezuman. Okay, we'll continue with this tomorrow. Hashem, it's a long daf today. All right.
Okay.
Shimon
Drive safe.
Shimon has to come up
Thank
with
you.
the song of the daf.
What?
Shimon had the question today. He has to come up with the song of the daf.
Oh, the Amen?
Yeah, so now he's got to mention the song. Shimon,
Yeah.
You gotta do that.
There's also this song with the Yeshiva Boys Choir. It says Amen like 50 times.
All right. It's a good question. It's a good question. I don't know.
Yosef wants to know if he's allowed to bench.
Yeah.
What a disaster tonight. My iPad didn't work.
All right.
And Abba
Thank you very much.
Abba wants to know if
L'chaim.
Thank you.
All right. I'm signing off.
Have a good night.
Go ahead.
I gotta go take.